If you want to make instant dreadlocks or maintain frizzy dreadlocks, make sure to pick yourself up a crochet hook from Greatlocs.com.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to an episode of Greatlocs. I'm Gunther the Great, and today we're going to be taking a look at Morant's dreadlocks. Again, we're doing a little update. I feel like his hair has grown quite a bit. Not only has it grown, but it's actually matured and started to look a little bit different. So we're going to take a look at that today, and we'll be able to see some of the hairstyles he's been wearing and some of the changes that are happening with his hair. And it's pretty interesting looking at his hair, so we'll talk about that in today's video. But before we get into it, make sure you give this video a thumbs up, and guys, please comment down below who you guys want to see next, because you guys have been doing a great job on it, and all the recommendations you guys have been giving are some people that have some really cool looking set of dreads. So make sure to leave a comment down below, and let's get straight into it. So Morant, we're looking at his dreadlocks, and it's really cool seeing him actually do some hairstyles. And one thing that I noticed about his dreadlocks and also Lil Baby's dreadlocks is that they might not look 100% really, mature and maintained outside of the hairstyles that they're doing, like the braids or the two-strand twists or whichever method of or style of dreadlocks they're going for. It looks very maintained inside of the hairstyle, but outside of the hairstyle, say when they do a braid out or a twist out, or even just having their dreadlocks out, they don't look 100% mature. And this is just part of the process. It's the locking process that, goes from starter locks all the way to fully mature dreadlocks. And this is a great way to actually hide the imperfections of your actual dreadlocks, if you have any, or if you're noticing any rather, because imperfections are really based on your perception and your perspective on your own dreadlocks. If you think that your hair doesn't look that hot, or you don't think it looks as good as you would like it to be, then put it in a hairstyle. Figure out how to actually make it look the way that you want it to be, even if you have to wear a hat or a beanie, or figuring out a way to actually just make it look the way that you want it to. It's where it fits with your face, it fits with your style. And hairstyles is one of those things that actually do it for a lot of people and make it look very clean and maintained. That's why we see Morant with the the braids back right here, just like we seen with Lil Baby. It's a very clean hairstyle, looks very well maintained, but like I said, it doesn't look that maintained outside of it. Now, like we see here, of course his hair is maturing and it looks completely matured, but at the same time, he hasn't had his dreadlocks for any longer than 2 years. Let's face it, dreadlocks really take, I would say, about 4 to 5 years to actually completely want to actually be mature dreadlocks. And even from there, your dreadlocks are constantly maturing over time. It doesn't matter how long you've had them, they just constantly are changing and looking different and maturing. Especially with Morant's dreadlocks. He started out with kind of a freeform style of dreadlocks. I think he did a lot of two-strand twists in the beginning stages, and we're still seeing him do two-strand twists now. That's how we see his hair, with it being really curly right here. And one thing you'll notice about his dreadlocks that make him stand out is that they're very puffy. And that's one thing that we notice about Lil Baby's dreadlocks as well. And I'm drawing the similarities between the two because both of their dreadlocks are pretty similar, because they look very clean and crisp inside of the hairstyle. But outside, then you see the imperfections. Although I don't believe there are any imperfections. I use that word very loosely. What I'm saying is the underdevelopment of the actual dreadlocks. There's a certain stage of development to where they're pretty much done and good to go, which his dreadlocks pretty much are. But at the same time, you're able to see how the tips could be a little bit loose, how the actual length could be a little bit loose. You see a little bit of the frizz, and that's just one of the parts of actually getting dreadlocks. And if you're getting into dreadlocks and you're hoping that there's no frizz whatsoever and your tips are going to be perfect or the roots are always going to be maintained, that's not the case. Having dreadlocks is really just an entire process that you're going through, and every day is different. I mean, I have my own set of dreadlocks right now that I started about 4 months ago, and every single day is something new. And as time progresses, every month is something new, every year is something new. And that's because the locking process not only slows down, but it's because you're at almost full maturity. And like I mentioned earlier, you don't really reach full maturity. You just reach a point to where you're pretty much able to do anything with your dreadlocks and they're not going to come out or unravel, which that's where we see Morant at right now. Now, looking at this next photo, we're able to see how actually quote unquote puffy his dreadlocks are. And that just goes to show that when you maintain your dreadlocks and you put it in a hairstyle, or you twist them, or you do some form of maintenance, it just makes the dreadlocks look so much well put together. And one thing that I mentioned with Lil Baby's dreadlocks is that it's nice to find it not only a method to actually maintain your dreadlocks, but find a hairstyle, because a hairstyle is something that you can wear and it looks nice, versus doing twisting with gel and then you put the clips in, and say you want to go out, you can't go out with those clips in while you're allowing it to dry. Now, of course, it only takes about an hour to 2 hours to actually dry if you're just allowing it to air dry. But the longer you leave the clips in, the longer your dreadlocks want to actually stay in that position, because essentially dreadlocks are just creating a position or creating sections and then keeping your hair in those sections for a long period of time. Eventually that will develop into a dreadlock, and that's essentially what a dreadlock is. It's just a section of hair that has stayed in that section for a long period of time to where it just will constantly stay in that section. And the reason it does stay in that section is because it's tangled together with other hair in that section. And that's why you see people use the crochet hook to do instant locks, because all you do is you create a section, then you literally instantly lock up that hair using the crochet hook, which, as you guys know, you can pick yourself up a Greatlocs crochet hook at greatlocs.com right now if you click the link in the description. And I really back up the crochet hook a lot, because not only do you get instant dreadlocks, but essentially, like I said earlier, it's very simple. Anybody can do it. I actually created a video on my main channel where I allowed my son to give me dreadlocks using the Greatlocs crochet hook, and he literally did it in about 5 minutes. But it's so easy because all you do is you create the section, and then you're able to entangle that hair in order to create a dreadlock. You're essentially just speeding up the process. What would naturally happen over time, you're doing it in about a couple minutes. And speaking about that, why are dreadlocks puffy or, you know, very thick? It's most likely just because they're going through the locking stage. Like I said, with Ja Morant's dreadlocks, he's going through the locking stages, and that is a process. There is the, you know, creating the section, and then it goes into budding up, which takes quite a bit of time. But the budding up process is super essential, because after it buds up, then it starts to lock, which the dreadlocks budding is essentially it, like getting kind of compressed together. And with it getting compressed, they get a little thick. But once they reach the thick stage, then you know that they're going to start compressing and then starting to thin out and actually get very tight and skinny. Now right here, we're able to see how nice his sections are. Very well maintained and put together. They all look pretty equal in size. They're not exactly perfect, and I think that's just based on how he started out his dreadlocks, which is completely fine, and it's really up to you. And if the sections aren't perfect, it's quite unnoticeable unless someone's like literally looking at your hair, or if it's a loctician or someone like me who's reviewing the actual hair and has seen dreadlocks literally over and over and over again every single week. But at first glance, his dreadlocks look perfect, very well maintained. And even this hairstyle, it's not a very put together hairstyle, but pulling up half of the hair and then having half down, it just makes it look more clean. And at the same time, having the lineup with a fade just makes it look overall well put together. And that's another thing, is you don't always have to have a hairstyle. You can just get a fade and a nice lineup. Whether you have a high top fade or a taper fade like Ja Morant right here, it's gonna look good. You just have to figure out what you want to do for your hairstyle to fit your personal style, fit your face, and however you want it to look. Now this photo really just kind of gives everything away as far as how his hair actually looks, how mature it is in this photo. You can see that the tips are very undeveloped, which is completely fine, and that's usually the part that locks up last, because it wants to lock up from the root down. Sometimes it locks in the middle and then works its way up and down. It just really kind of depends on the hair type as well. I know that people that have a very tight curl pattern, which with him, he has about a 4A hair type, which is pretty tight, but at the same time, with him getting locks, the hair wants to lock from the bottom up. So I mean from the root all the way to the tip. And then with that, you have to understand that there's new growth. So that new growth isn't going to want to lock up. It's going to be that hair that's about an inch away from the scalp. It'll start to bud up and then lock up, and then work its way down to the tip. And sometimes the tip wants to lock up and work its way down. There's a lot of factors that go into it. It depends if you're laying on that part of your head. Like typically the sides and the back want to lock up really quickly, and then the hair on the top of the head takes a little bit longer. That's why you notice some of the hair on the back and the sides of his head actually look very well maintained and maturing a whole lot faster than the ones that are right above his forehead and some on top of his head. But I think this is a prime example that goes to show that it doesn't matter really how long your hair is, how long you've actually had your dreadlocks. Sometimes it just takes some time for the hair to actually want to bud up and then lock up, and that's just part of the locking process. And I hope this encourages you guys as well, that you're gonna go through a process, and that's why it's called the locking process. And a lot of people call it the ugly stage, but I like to call it the locking process, because ugly is really dependent upon the person and your perception. So if you look at your hair and see it as a process and you're going through stages, then it benefits you a little bit better than you calling it ugly. And in my opinion, I think it looks great, and overall it's going to look great over time. But make sure to give this video a thumbs up if it helped you out or you enjoyed it. Make sure to comment down below who you'd like to see next. Other than that, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Hey, I will personally teach you how to get dreadlocks in the dreadlock school, either for yourself or for others. Now in these courses, I'm going to teach you how to do instant dreadlocks using only 2 tools. Now this is very affordable, considering that if you were to go to a loctician, they would charge you about $100 per session. And that's a minimum. And if you were to go in to do maintenance once a month, that's already over $1,000 a year. But if you join the dreadlock school now, you'll have instant dreadlocks forever for only $20.